Hi, everyone. This is Caroline from Fiat Integrative Health in Franklin, Tennessee, and you're listening to the Fiat Health Podcast. We believe that now more than ever, the healthcare industry has become a place of confusion. And over the years, we have been asked countless questions about what true health and integration for the whole person looks like. Join us every other week as we explore topics ranging from primary care and women's health to counseling and spiritual health. We're so glad you're here. Hey there, Lucy.
Hi, Caroline.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm excited and nervous to be here.
I love having you on here. I'm very excited. Since this is your first time being on our little podcast, I'd love for you to talk to us about just who you are, where you came from, and what brought you to Fiat.
Oh, man. That's a lot of questions at once. Okay, yeah. I'm Lucy. Lucy Bordiuk, and I'm a counselor here at Fiat. I've been here a little over a year now, and I told you in September, I was like, it's been my 1 year anniversary, and I'm
so
secretly
crazy.
Celebrating it by myself.
Oh.
And yeah, what else about me? I am a mom of two. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 7-month-old, Jack and Annie. And oh man, I feel like how we got to Nashville is always feels relevant around here. My husband and I both came here for college. I went to Vanderbilt and he went to Belmont, and we met at the Catholic Center there. But then we moved away a few years while he did Focus and came back about 1.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we're excited to be here and be a little settled and kind of plan to be here, honestly, forever unless called other places. And got to Fiat when we moved back. I started putting out feelers. I was about to graduate and I was like, man, my 5-year dream would be to be a Catholic counselor and to be able to really integrate my faith in my work. Fiat just kept coming up in all these random ways. Mm-hmm. My husband was roommates with your brother in college.
So wild.
The family I lived with while we were engaged in North Dakota knows you and also said I should look you up. A couple people recommended Fiat as our pediatrician, and I saw you all had a counselor, and I just cold emailed you and was like, you don't have a job posting, but any shot you want another one? Yeah. I would love to be it. And now here we are, and I cannot believe that my dream job 5 years down the line is my first job, and yeah, excited to be here and be a part of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. We love having you. Can you tell us maybe a little bit of what really inspired you, I guess, or what's your story with counseling? What drew you into counseling?
Yeah.
And going to get your master's after you were married and having a baby and everything?
Yeah, it was a little roundabout. I feel like I, in high school, always knew kind of the basis was I knew I wanted to help people. Mm-hmm. And so I always thought about going into nonprofit work specifically. And that's really what I studied in undergrad was community development, nonprofit, organizational development. Mm-hmm. And all my internships through college were in nonprofits. My first job out of college was at a food bank here. And I loved all of it. And I still have such a heart for nonprofit work. And I love the way getting to help people, obviously. Yeah. And also the smallness of nonprofits, you often get to make such a big difference, even as a 20-year-old at that time. But the more I was in those jobs, the more I was like, okay, I like what I'm doing right now. Usually because the entry-level jobs at nonprofits are working with the people. But I know the higher up I get, the less I'll work with people. Yeah. And actually, there aren't any other jobs in this company I would want to do. And I was working at the biggest nonprofit in Nashville.
Yeah.
Or one of. And so I was like, how else can I help people but stay with people long term, throughout the entire career? Mm-hmm. And counseling kept coming up. And one of my internships in college was at a counseling center that is a nonprofit. And I was working on the nonprofit side, but also got to dive into the counseling side a little bit while there. They were, very nice to let me do that. Yeah, it kind of all just came together. But even throughout all of grad school, I was like, what if I get through this and don't like it? So it's been so fun to be here and see no, I really like what I'm doing. I do think I ended up in the right place career-wise. And I love getting to sit with people on a daily basis and enter into their hearts and their stories. And it's a really unique job. It's really cool.
Yeah. What's something that you've really loved about counseling maybe that surprised you, or maybe an example from somebody you've worked with that was just like really fulfilling?
A couple things come to mind. I think a kind of silly surprise is I know so much about random professions I never expected to know about because everyone comes in with their own unique profession and really niche professions sometimes, especially here in Nashville. And so I know a lot about like industries I never expected to know about. And yeah, that's been funny. But one of the most like fulfilling pieces, I think, is just watching those changes happen in people's hearts and in their minds. And I think a really tangible way I get to see that, or particularly tangible, is in when people are trying to make a big decision and usually coming to me because they're like, this big thing is in my life, whether that be a career change or relationships, next steps, and seeing eventually, usually they have to make a decision at some point here with me, and I get to be along with them for that.
That's so awesome. What would you say? Like, I think that there's a whole movement out there that's like, everybody needs a counselor versus like, I don't think everybody needs a counselor, but I think there is really a particular time and place that counselors are incredibly helpful. What would you say is where you shine the most in terms of like people looking for help, and when it's like best to seek out help from someone like you or counselors in general?
I want to preface with I think this is my own opinion. I see people come with really specific goals, like I want to process this thing or work on this decision. And I think those are usually the most tangible change. I also have people come that are like, I've just been doing a lot of work on myself and I want a counselor. That can be a little harder to find a direction. Usually we find something together, but the more people come in with a direction, the more fruitful it is typically.
Sure.
I personally, in my personal life, am a big fan of like having an established relationship with a counselor that I'm not necessarily seeing on a regular basis, but that I know like if something new comes up, I wouldn't have to go in and do all the base work of telling my whole story just for this like one thing.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm there right now with having moved here a year and a half ago. I don't feel like I have my own yet, but that I'm established with. And I don't think all counselors would agree with that take, but I think I think usually with counseling, like when something comes up in our lives that we're like, oh, I need to talk to someone about this, I can't like work through it on my own. It can feel pretty urgent.
Like
and the process
mode.
Of like filling in a counselor to get to the urgent thing can feel slow.
Yes, totally. I know I've had patients, and even friends who that process can be so difficult because, not every counselor is created equal because we're all unique individuals. And the way we practice medicine, the way we practice counseling will come out differently with every person. And so it's like, I know I had a friend who, went through like 3 different counselors, and that's such a long, arduous process to do that, especially like you said, if you're in a crisis, you're like, I need help now. And then you're like, oh, I don't like jive with this person. Yes. I don't think they're giving me the help I need. Maybe they don't have the same values as me. Is another like huge component. So yeah, I think there is definitely some wisdom in that of like, you've already done the work to establish care, so to speak, with somebody.
Right.
So that when something huge or major comes up, you have that relationship. I think that's very wise.
Yeah. What
would you say in terms of like values? Like what values do you bring into your counseling? And that could be, I can't think of the word, but like obvious, and not at the same time. Like I know for my own practice, even within medicine, I can treat anybody with an ear infection.
Right.
And I can bring to the forefront certain values within a visit, but I don't have to. But they're always there because they're foundational. So maybe speak to kind of your values you bring into your overall practice that can sometimes be utilized, but they're always there because they're foundational.
Ooh, I don't know if I've ever like looked to verbalize these. I think something I think about a lot is wanting to make sure people feel listened to, which sounds obvious in counseling, but even in the counseling chair, I could sit there thinking about my own things while listening, but like really wanting to make sure people know that what they are saying is important and valued and heard. There's healing even to just be had in that. Some people don't have that in their lives, especially about whatever particular thing they're wanting to talk about. Yeah, I also am often looking for what is my common ground with them, even if there's things we disagree on, particulars or how to handle something, whatever. I'm sure there are many things I disagree with people on. Those things don't really matter, but there's usually some common ground. And a lot of those things are like the basic human desires of wanting to be seen, known, and loved. Yeah. I feel like I would need to think about this one more, but those are a couple of things that come to mind in the beginning.
Yeah, I love that. Those are good and beautiful things. So one other thing that I think is kind of unique to both of us is that we're both Catholics, we're both moms, and we're both working. And I don't think that's particularly common amongst our peers, I guess I'd say. So I guess I'd love to hear kind of your experience, so to speak, of navigating that space of, deciding to work amidst having children. And kind of what went into that discernment and how it's played out now.
I want you to share your story too here.
Oh, I will. For sure.
I honestly never thought I would be a stay-at-home mom in any capacity. I remember when my husband and I were dating and we were talking about kind of that. I don't know why we were talking about that at that point, but I think I knew he was probably thinking like, oh, his future wife would be a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, I just gotta set your expectations here. I don't think that's me.
That's a good, healthy thing to talk about while dating.
Fair. So honestly, I think it's almost the opposite of my discernment to stay home 2 days a week. I'm here 3 and I'm home. Sorry, I'm at Fiat 3 days a week and I'm home 2 days a week. I think that has been more of a surprise to me than the other way around.
Because you expected to be full-time.
Yeah. Full-time, 9 to 5 working mom.
Okay.
And I think I've seen the value of, again, sounds obvious, time with your kids, and also kind of that balance of me wanting direct, like hands-on care for them and forming them and wanting time with them. And I also feel very called to work. Obviously, I always felt called to work, and specifically in the way that I do, helping people, getting to sit with people. And then also the logistics of like financially that went into our discernment, or time. I really think my kid needed social time. He was pretty like behind speech wise, and we did speech therapy, but I also think daycare helped with that. Yeah. Different things like that. Little logistics.
Yeah. That's
your turn.
Well, so we have 6 kids, ages 9 months to 10. And I think we've done every form of childcare that is out there. I did not have any concept of whether or not I would stay at home or work. As a child, I certainly wasn't like a baby doll, like mother hen kind of kid. I mean, I babysat since I was like 10, very like responsible and enjoyed kids. I'm the second oldest of 5. And so, I watched my younger siblings. My younger sister's 13 years younger than me. So like, I grew up being a second mom.
Yes.
And I got married very young. We were 20 and 21. We had our first child when I was 22. So like logistically, I had to work, when we were poor new grads out of school. My husband was a public school teacher and I was a nurse, and I did night shift. And that was a very difficult time to have a new baby working night shift, husband working full time. But it was, it was just where we were in life and what we had to do. And it was more of a surrender than a discernment, right? It was like, yes, Lord, like this is where we are.
I think some Catholic moms though would feel really guilty for that, of the like, I have to work right now. But it's like the circumstances we're being called to children in.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of surrender. And I think the devil, the father of lies, loves to plant those lies of guilt and shame. And I think moms are so a perfect prey or, victim for that. And that's something that's just not I don't know if it's temperament or personality or upbringing or what, but I've not really been one to fall into that shame and guilt of having to work, and really just more of a surrender of our circumstances and discernment, and just, yeah, like going through the next open door. And that's kind of how we've always approached it. There is intentionality for sure behind it, but there's also the reality of life.
Yeah.
There's been times where I haven't worked and times where I have worked more and less and everything. So through it all, I've always held this equal balance in both hands of being a stay-at-home mom and a working mom, of like, okay, Lord, like I would be perfectly content to be in either of these categories, right? I don't want to be running away from staying at home full time. Like, I don't want my work to be like, oh, it's just, I can't possibly be with my children at home. You know, because I've heard people say things like that. Like, they drive me crazy or whatever, which is fine. But I don't ever think it should be a reaction to that, to be working. But I also, the other way around of just feeling guilty for working.
Right.
And so, oh, well, I'm not going to work, even though maybe I'm called to it, because I feel guilty and ashamed that I'm spending time away from my children, you know, that they're being influenced by daycare or school or a nanny or whatever. And I'm not there 24/7. So I feel like if you can have that kind of balanced, like surrender, okay, Lord, wherever you call me, that is where I will go. He's going to show you, you know, he sees that desire and that surrender, and he'll show you where you're meant to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Like not gripping so hard to having to be a working mom or having to be a stay-at-home mom. Kind of the open hands to either.
Yeah. Because I mean, I see the good in both. I'm sure you do too, right? You know, and I get the same social media things about homeschooling your mom, you know, being a homeschool stay-at-home mom, you know, all the good and the beautiful things that go along with that, which are true, but so is the good, the beautiful things that we're called to here at Fiat, for instance, you know, or in a working place, or the reality of financially, it doesn't work for us right now.
Right.
And like God works in reality. So yeah, I guess going back to our story a little bit is we currently every year I think has changed, right? Like I said, I think we've done everything. Last year we had a live-in nanny, and I worked 3 days a week, and my husband worked 3 days a week, and we were each home a day or two a week, you know, like,
right.
And we had a nanny, and, you know, that worked really great for that year. And this year we did something different. This year we have 4 of our kids in full-time Catholic school, 1 child who's at a hybrid / homeschool the other days. And by homeschool, I mean, she comes to the office with me and we do tutoring here.
I love having her here.
It's really special. I mean, it's a real gift. You know, she's at such a sweet age at 10, you know, to me, it's like kind of a golden age where they still have their innocence, but obviously they can hold conversations with you and they have some independence. So
I was just thinking about this last night, actually, about her like sitting at the lunch table with all of us, staff, and how she gets to be a part of lunch, but also how we get to have her as a part of lunch.
Yeah, it's so special. And I mean, she obviously gets influenced by being here, which is such a good thing. And obviously there's the thing that I've like just come to realize over 10 years of trying to figure out childcare / working / not working is that nothing is perfect. Good grief. The grass is always greener on the other side. There are pros and cons to every situation. To think that like, oh, well, it'll just be better if, I think is just not actually reality and just causes so much more anxiety than is like necessary.
Yes.
Versus like surrendering to like, okay, this is where we are. I mean, I know I find myself constantly like, well, if we could just change this, if we could just change that, like in 6 months, maybe we should like completely change our work schedule to do this or that. And I mean, maybe we will, but like, it's like to constantly be in that mode is exhausting.
Yes. It's constant discernment, like you said, of Chris and I were just talking about this last night of not only did I feel called to be a working mom in general, basically my whole life, but also in the past year of actively being a working mom, I have never not felt called to it. And so that is like continual discernment. But there's a balance between continual discernment and then like, stressing ourselves out with discernment when actually we're just called to be present. I remember in Focus, they followed the school year. And so pretty much at the end of every year, people are asking like, did you discern whether to stay or leave? And Chris and I were like, you don't do that in a normal job. You don't have a discernment moment every year. Right. You just are in it until something shifts. And then you need to discern whether or not to leave. And that balance there is hard to strike.
Well, I think our culture too, I mean, I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head, but like, people change jobs feels like constantly, like 30, 50 years ago, you like went to a company and you stayed there because it was your job. And I think behind that, constant changing is this grass is greener on the other side. This like, it's going to be better at this other place versus just being content maybe or surrendering to your current circumstances within reason and prudence and wisdom and all of that. But it's hard. It's really hard and exhausting to be a working mom. And it's also really hard and exhausting to stay home all the time. So I feel like, just really discerning what God's will for you is outside of all the noise and the lies is so imperative for everyone. I think moms especially struggle with that.
Yes.
I think one thing too that's interesting this year is that we have childcare here at Fiat.
I was waiting to talk about that.
Well, tell me, what do you think about it?
Where to even start? So my 7-month-old and your 9-month-old are here in the office right now, like 2 rooms down with, I don't even know what to call Lizzie.
Yeah.
Our nanny, our babysitter, our daycare provider was Lizzie, the best. And I don't even know where to go with that. I remember when I toured Fiat, you were like, I have this dream of this room being a nursery one day for nursing babies or babies under 1 or whatever. And then I had lined up daycare for my 7-month-old. And then you text me and were like, hey, I think I'm going to make it happen. And I was like, let me cancel daycare. Like, okay. And I remember texting you the first day that I got to bring Annie in and being like, I knew I would like it, but I didn't realize I would love it. And it would
love having her here.
Yeah. I felt like I was on cloud 9 with her here. And even this morning walking in and like holding her in my arm while I have my work bag on my other shoulder, like kissing her cheeks. I'm like, this is the best. Does it decrease my productivity as 100%. I say to my boss? A little bit. Yeah. But
100% it does because nothing's perfect.
Yes. But I think that's something really cool you've built here in the culture is like, does Eliana being here, your oldest, decrease productivity also? Probably. But like, you're not only focused on the productivity and efficiency of your workers at Fiat, you're focused on the well-being of the families of Fiat.
Yes, 100%. I love that. I love seeing the fruit of it too. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we were looking for a new office space, which was taking so long, oh my gosh, we looked for like 6 months. We were like busting at the seams, just, touring all over Franklin. This office was, I got to that back room. It had a door outside. It had windows, floor to ceiling. And I said, this is the nursery and we are going to be in this building. Like that was the reason, was because I had from the very beginning just had this desire to be able to provide that to moms, like to be able to nurse on demand, bring their babies to work. And I had seen it done in a clinic, a rural clinic I had worked at, or I was a student at, where they had, it was the owner's granddaughter and her daughter worked at the clinic too, was just around the clinic. She was under 1. She would nap in the back corner and come out and play and whatever. They didn't have someone in particular who watched the kid, but I was like, oh, this could happen, and I just saw the fruit of it of like, everybody loves babies for the most part, And so I joke with people when I tell them we have, childcare here. I'm like, it's like baby therapy. Like the babies get passed around at lunch. You bring them in the morning and everyone's like, oh my gosh, look at their overalls.
Every morning I stop in and show off her outfit.
Yes. Like gotta get her dressed for her day at Fiat because everyone's going to fawn over her.
Better dressed here than anywhere else.
Yes. So for me, it was like, oh, this space is like conducive to having babies here. They can go outside. It's in the back corner in case they're crying, all these things. It was just, to me, like I almost cried. Like I didn't, like it was a prayer of mine. We were looking for buildings and every building we went to, it was like, oh, there just wasn't a conducive space for that. Like you think about office buildings, like are not conducive for babies.
Right.
People obviously don't think about that. And then there's like a soccer field across the street, that like we go and walk and take the babies to, and Lizzie takes them out for walks. And yeah, I mean, it was just like such one of those little God moments that was like, yes, like he does want to fulfill that desire. And then when it was like, okay, we're going to have 2 babies, like I didn't want to like pull the trigger for like only myself. Like it financially didn't make sense as a business and space wise and all the things. But then when you're like, oh, I'm pregnant, whatever. It's like, this is my chance.
My like first day of work, I was like, oh, surprise, you hired a pregnant person.
I was like, amazing. This is great. So it was just amazing and awesome. And then obviously Lizzie was our live-in nanny last year. And it just, again, the Lord works. And it was just worked out perfectly for her to be able to be here with the babies. And I've been so happy. And yes, productivity is much lower. Not much. I mean, it is lower for sure. And it's harder, I think there are, again, pros and cons of having to bring your things with you for the baby. I don't know. There's little things, but overall net positive for sure.
Definitely net positive.
Yes. It's been so fun. Okay. If you could leave us with one thing, one words of wisdom from our counselor, one of our counselors here, what would it be?
I think I'm still on the topic of being working moms. And I think 2 things are coming to mind. One, even though we have a primary vocation as wives and mothers, we can also have secondary vocations as working moms in our individual careers. And I think the place that you can discern there is, as long as your secondary vocation isn't taking away from your ability to live out your primary one, you can be called to more than one. Big V and little V vocations. And I'm also just thinking back to the moms that I think feel financially that they have to work and are feeling guilty about it and are feeling like they're terrible moms because they're having to work and leave their kiddos. And I think I like what you said of like, no, like this is the season you are in. Therefore, this is what you're called to do. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Have grace with yourself. Have tenderness with yourself. It's one of my favorite phrases. God, he is more. Oh my gosh. I'm going to mess up my favorite phrase. He is gentler with us than we are with ourselves.
I love that. I needed to hear that because so often fall prey to that. I could do better. I could be better. I can. Yeah. If only this were different, So I think that's beautiful. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for this.
Absolutely. Thank you for pinging me to be here.
Of course. And I'm sure we'll do it again.
Can't wait. More topics. We had many more on the brainstorm list.
We had some ideas for sure. And then we will get to them. They will come.
Awesome. Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. To learn more, you can visit our website at fiathealth.org. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. This helps make the podcast easier to find. Lastly, if you'd like to reach out, ask a question, or suggest a topic for a future show, send us an email at media@fiathealth.org. God bless.